dalle ossessioni delle tue manie.
Okay. So here, you've got those notes. You're working harder than you have to get to these notes. I can see it in your eyebrows. I can see the worry creeping in your eyebrows. Relax those beautiful eyebrows. Hey Voxstar, and welcome to From Singer to Artist. I'm Lara Chapman, award-winning singer and songwriter turned viral vocal coach and the host of this show. At VoxTape Studios, we help singers from all over the world level up their voices by teaching them the 3 fundamental skills all singers need: technique, awareness, and artistry. Whether you're looking to go pro or just develop your voice for fun, my team and I are here to help. Check the link in the description to book your first session or grab some of our other resources. Alrighty, are you ready? Let's get started. It's time to do some more vocal evaluations, and I am super excited because today's theme for our vocal evaluations is songs of the world, meaning we're going to look at songs in different languages. Not in English today, but rather in Spanish, in Hungarian, and in Italian. So I am super excited to give this give this a shot, see what it sounds like. I do not speak any of these languages, but that doesn't matter. And so I'm excited to have a listen and see what we've got here. So without further ado, I would say let's just dig right in. First up, we have Robin. Robin is going to be singing in Spanish. Robin was actually a student with us here at VoxTape a little while ago. I would say maybe already almost a year ago now, but she is still a part of our community and we love having her. But let's have a look at her song called Ecos de Amor by Jesse y Joy, or maybe not how you say Jesse y Joy, but maybe. I'm trying over here. What she mentioned that she is working on is, I often get lost in the emotion of the song and begin to lose power. Although in this clip, I tried to sing with a boring face, but overdid it and did not transmit any emotion in some parts. I love that you're bringing up the boring face because boring face is one of my favorite things ever. A lot of times when we sing, our face loves to just kind of go wild. Our eyebrows are all over the place. The mouth shape is all crazy. And, it's because we're trying so hard. And a lot of times that makes actually singing harder than it has to be. And obviously we want to use our face for expressing ourselves, like you were talking about here. And so, singing with a boring face on stage might not necessarily be the thing that we want to do. But when it comes to practicing, it's really great to release any sort of facial muscles so that we're not relying on that to sing certain notes. But anyways, let's have a listen to this clip and a look at this clip as well if you're watching the video of this, so that we can see what's going on with not just your face, but with your whole voice. Alrighty, let's have a listen.
Estoy perdiendo la razón, me hablas en cualquier canción, tu nombre es en cada palabra. Estás tan cerca y tan lejos, me aferro solo a un reflejo, te pierdo, ya están desgastadas.
Okay, great. We're gonna pause right there before we get into what I assume is the chorus. So far, I think this is really great. Had you not said anything about boring face, I would not have mentioned anything about it and be like, yeah, you look really bored. Like, you look like you're actively using the boring face. It would not have crossed my mind at all. And so I find that interesting that you brought it up, but I love everything I'm hearing so far. It sounds like you feel really comfortable in this lower part of the song, in this verse. And so I want to go again from the beginning and dissect it a little bit more in detail.
Estoy perdiendo la razón, me hablas en cualquier canción, tu nombre.
Okay, right there, when you're breathing in, it's a little bit of a shallow breath. It's a little up here in your shoulders. focus more on getting that breath a little bit lower, right? So one way you can practice that is pushing your hands on your ribs, not your waist, but a little bit higher up on your ribs, and then breathe into your hands and like push your hands away from the center of your body, like push them out. That can help you just get that breath a little bit lower so it doesn't feel quite so shallow. Not that shallow breaths are always bad. They can sometimes be just as useful as a deeper, lower breath, but it does look like you're just kind of a little up here in your shoulders. You also tend to look a little sideways when you sing sometimes as well. So again, I just want to make sure that that doesn't come from any sort of tension, any sort of bad habits that you've picked up, but rather because of expression.
En cada palabra.
I love that.
Estás tan cerca y tan lejos. Me aferro.
Ejos. So right there, you're kind of pushing that jaw forward a little bit. Ejos. So you have a little bit of a jaw thrust going on. Pushing that jaw forward slightly. Ejos. Ejos. I don't know what that word is. I don't know if that is a word or if I'm just breaking to like a word in just a smaller part. I don't know. But just something to be mindful when you're, making these sounds there, that your jaw, that you're not thrusting, that you're not pushing that jaw forward more than you have to, because this isn't a comfortable range of your voice. So I don't think you have to do any sort of jaw thrust at all here. Ejos, ejo, ho. Get the job. It's easier to get the job done with your lips rather than with your jaw here in this case. Just shape your lips.
Un reflejo.
Same thing. You're kind of like tilting that head to one side with your shoulder up, creating a little bit of tension in your neck. It doesn't hold you back at all here when you're down in these lower notes. Just want to point it out so that you are aware of what it is you're doing, right? But this could potentially, I'm just moving it back here a little bit, like backing up the track here a little bit, but this could potentially be something that is going to hold you back in the future, or like in a different range of your voice. Maybe not, but maybe yes.
Me aferro solo a un reflejo, te pierdo.
All right. Te pierdo. So up here, I can see it on your face how you're starting to get a little scared because you know the high notes are coming. Oh, so instead of going, oh, and you're kind of like holding back, like you mentioned, you're losing a little bit of that power. Instead of making yourself smaller to get up to these notes, one little trick that I like to use is just pushing my elbows out, because it helps me feel larger on the inside, right? It helps me feel like I am expanding on the inside. Oh, oh, compared to oh, and then it feels a little stuck. Oh, oh. A lot of times we also talk about placement when we talk about singing. I know Coach Emily from our team, she actually doesn't like to talk about placement because that's just not really her thing. And she's like, what does that even mean? But some people like talking about placement. It just really kind of depends on the student that we have in front of us. But sometimes when we are talking about placement, we talk about like bringing the sound more forward, right? So it's not stuck back here. I sometimes find it actually helpful to place the sound a little bit further back, so that I can feel more space opening up back here and not so much in the front of my mouth. That's just a tendency that I have, and depending on the person that I'm working with, they're the same, where it's like, no, actually, like, create a little bit more space back here. Don't feel like you have to place the sound so forward all the time. And for others, it's the complete opposite. They need to place it more forward in order to get the sound out the way they want to. So just play around with this. Oh, oh. For me, I'm just like thinking like, open up back here, almost like lifting that soft palate, placing it a little bit further back to not lose the fullness in my sound. So that's something you can try
Ya
here.
están desgastadas.
Okay, here. Gastadas. Oh, this is actually not easy to sing. You're beautifully opening your mouth. da casados. I don't know if that's a word that you're saying. I'm sorry if I'm butchering it. So what I would recommend is first drop the lyrics completely and just do it on da 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 or la 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 and see how that's coming out. If that's coming out exactly the way you want, awesome, bring the lyrics back in. If not yet, figure out where that tension is coming from. I think you're losing power because you don't fully believe that you can hit those notes more powerfully. So I'd love for you to just go for it and be like, I'm just going to belt out these notes. If I crack on the notes, so be it. I'm just going to try my best and see what happens. And I think you're going to surprise yourself a little bit up there. Because you're already beautifully opening your mouth, so you've got that going for you already. It's just more your mindset that's holding you back. Now, if this doesn't feel good, la 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 up there on that note, I'm like, oh, I need to make a couple little tweaks to it. So figure out, is it in your jaw? Is it in your tongue? Is it in your neck? What exactly is holding you back from nailing that note in a more powerful belt? But again, for you, it's mostly a mental thing. You got those notes.
Todas las palabras.
It's the same thing there. Palabras. So there, on this palabras, I know that word. Palabras. Does that mean like words or something like that? Anyways, I feel like I've heard that word before. Doesn't matter. There, you're stopping your energy before the word is done. So you on bala, that's great. And when you get to bras, the last two notes, bras, you're already kind of done with it. I don't know if that's because you were running out of breath or, if in your mind you're already on the next phrase or whatever. Just make sure that you're sustaining yourself all the way through the end of the phrase energetically and with your breath as well. If it is because you're running out of breath, make sure that you're just taking a really good breath right before you start that phrase, because it's not a long phrase. You so got that. You just need to remember to take a good enough breath.
Lo que queda entre tú y yo no le alcanza el corazón y desde mi pecho suena tu
Okay, it's gonna get higher there too. So that whole part there in the middle, it's the same thing there. You have the power in your voice. You just don't fully believe that you do, and you might be a little bit scared of what could happen if it doesn't come out exactly the way you want it to. So don't hold back. Don't hold back. You got this. Now, I do want to hear that high note there.
mi pecho suena tu recuerdo. Todo lo que
I love that. Da, 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 da. That's a beautiful melody. Da, when we get up to that super high note, I don't know what note that is. I don't have perfect pitch. But when you get up there, if you're making it more belty in these other notes, and then you get all the way up there and you're like, okay, that is definitely out of my range, you could go into a softer da-da-dun-da-da, something like that on purpose, because it builds a dynamic range. Right? A lot of times singers are doing this and we're like, oh my God, that sounds amazing. And they're doing it because otherwise it would be way too difficult for them to sing. And us as the audience, we don't know that. We love what they did anyways. So it's nice little things that we can do to kind of like cheat our way through the song. But yeah, that's definitely something you can do. Da-da-dun-da-da. Because if you go da-da-dun-da-da, that might be a little difficult, but you can play around with it. You have the power. I know you do.
fue de los dos son ecos de amor.
Amor. There, it doesn't have to be this powerful either. I actually kind of like pulling back there and making that a little bit softer like you're doing it. Just make sure that when you're going up in pitch, that you're not going into your nose. And it's just a little stuck up here in your nasal cavity, like slightly, okay? Like it's not anything crazy at all by any means. It's just a little stuck. So keep the energy and the sound moving forward rather than up into your nose. Amor. You can even close your nose. Amor. And and then you can feel any vibrations in your nose, then that would mean there is some nasal resonance happening there. If there's no vibrations, then you're completely out of your nose. Not that you need to get completely out of your nose, but we just want to make sure that, you're not sending too much sound up into the nose.
Ecos de amor suenan mexicano.
There, more. There, what I think could be cool is building that dynamic range. Then amor, something like that, or amor. Keeping that second or that third note soft as well, but just, that high note, pulling back on that note and even making it a little bit breathy on purpose is just going to help you build that dynamic range. I think that could be really cool.
Así cada vez un poco más. Suenan tanto y no me puedo acostumbrar.
Yeah, that was very nice. Oh my gosh. I like hearing you sing in Spanish. I don't think I've ever heard you sing in Spanish. So yay, Robin. That was really good. With the high notes, like I think everything you're doing sounds really great. I know you've got more power up there. It's just a matter of, do you trust yourself and do you just want to go for it? That's really all it comes down to. And just like, yeah, voice, take over, try it. Give it a shot, see what happens. And then you can slowly build up the confidence, essentially, for you to do these higher notes with a little bit more power regularly. And you definitely got those notes. And building that dynamic range is gonna be super cool for your song here and for your singing in general, right? Like building a dynamic range is super important. Like playing around with different tones and embellishments and different volume as well. That's gonna be really cool and take this performance to the next level. So one more time, congrats, bravo, 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 Robin. Well done, well done. Okay, next up we have Miklan from Hungary. She's singing in Hungarian, and Miklan is a green room member here with us at VoxTape Studios, and she has access to our exercises and things like that. And I always love when she's posting videos of herself singing and sharing her music with us. She is like a metal singer too, which is super fun and super cool. So she's gonna be singing, I have no idea how to pronounce this, Mit Tegiek. I don't know if that is correct or not, but we can pretend. She says that she is working on singing without tension, belting, and mixed voice. Alrighty, let's have a look here at this song. Well, there you go. There's the metal.
Hiába vártak engem, nem erre szántak, ha régjen a kártya vár. Kavargó porban nem látok jobban, elfogy a levegő, leomlik a ház. Romok közt állva, a csodára várva, félek ez ostobaság. Az élet nem ennyit, csak tűzbe meredni, nem értem, nem érzem, ezt miért muszáj.
Okay, I'm going to pause right there. Holy moly, what a language. That sounds so cool. There's a lot of consonants happening here. I don't think I've ever heard the language, or at least not in songs. So this is like, whoa, what's happening? But it's super cool. Obviously, this is quite like an aggressive song. Like, it's, it's really quite, there's a little bit of a drive behind it and a lot of rhythms. So far, obviously, really great. I'm going to give you some recommendations for some vowel adjustments. You got to let me know, though, if that is even a possibility, because sometimes when we change vowels in certain languages, they mean something else. And I don't know if that's the case in your language here as well or not. But let's have a look here. Oh, before I go into it, just one thing in general, when we sing rock and metal music, it gets difficult for us to pace ourselves. And, especially when you have like all this music, these distorted guitars and everything behind us, it's like, I need to give it my everything and already be really loud and work really hard to get the notes out. And it's like, okay, hold on, but we can pace ourselves a little bit. So my first recommendation would be start with 20% less so that we can build a little bit more of a dynamic range. Now, I have no idea if this is the beginning of the song or not. So, take this tip however you'd like, but pacing yourself is something that's incredibly important. No matter the genre that we're singing, no matter the song that we're singing, anything or the language that we're singing in, we do need to pace ourselves.
Hiába vártak engem, nem erre szántak, hadd égjen a kártyavár.
Can you get a little lazier? Just a little lazier in your face, like in your mouth shapes. Again, this kind of goes back to pacing yourself and, just not working harder than we have to get the words out. I know there's a lot of words that need to come out, but I think you might be able to get away with like 5 or 10% less work in your mouth. And then make that a little darker. So it's not quite so, Do you hear the difference there? It's a very slight difference. Just as a recommendation, maybe you hate that and you're like, nah, actually, I like it bright. If you like it bright, great, go for it, as long as it feels easy. Na. So it's like, It sounds like you're working really hard to get these lower notes out there, like down there out. Na. Don't work quite that hard on these low notes. More like when you're getting ba 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 da 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 da. There you can give me a little bit more. But in these really low notes, I know it's hard to not work hard down there because the lower notes are always quieter than the higher notes. And so we're like, I want to make sure that other people can hear me. So I need to work hard to get the notes out. But we're always going to be singing with a microphone, at least in this case here for sure. So yeah, a little less work in those low notes, and I think they're going to come out just a little bit more easily. So that, because you mentioned that you're working on releasing tension, right? And so, that is just my tongue kind of getting a little tight back here if I'm going more into the sound. So if you can just hear the difference there, playing around with that might help you release a little bit of tension in your tongue and make the notes come out more easily. But this is really high level stuff, but I like everything you're doing. Okay, did you hear how that one was different? That one was a little less bright, which is exactly what I was talking about in the other two here. So there you're already going into that direction. So, maybe explore a little bit more of that if it feels right.
Élet nem ennyit, csak tűzbe meredni. Nem értem, nem érzem, ezt miért muszáj?
Okay, nice little growl. I am not a metal singer. I cannot teach you metal techniques. I can teach you distortion in the sense of like rock singing, but that was nice. I love the arms, like the hands with it too. Very cool. Okay. I want to point this out to everybody. Did you see how Miklan was pushing her tongue out there a little bit? Getting that tongue out of the way. So when I'm doing this, and I like putting into my own voice and feeling it and see, okay, what am I experiencing when I'm, pushing my tongue out versus when I'm not pushing my tongue out, so I can put it into words a little bit more easily. But here, it obviously changes your tone a little bit. And so in general, you have quite a bit of those those kinds of sounds compared to like a so that's mostly your tongue position. So there's not a right or a wrong way to do this here. These are just different options. So when you're practicing Miklan, I would definitely recommend paying attention to what your tongue is doing and then recording yourself and seeing like, okay, if I'm doing this with my tongue, if I'm pushing it more forward, it changes the tone this way. If I am doing, keeping my tongue a little bit lower or whatever, it changes the tone that way. So just playing around with the position of your tongue to see how it affects the sound of your voice and then go with whatever feels and sounds the best. So yeah, just playing around with it and having fun with it. Yeah. Ba-da-ba-ba, ba-ba. It's interesting because with low notes, I usually tell people like bring it more forward, right? Make it more. My favorite exercise for this is the doobie doobie doo, doobie doobie doo, to get these notes, these low notes, out a little bit more easily, and it doesn't feel like they're stuck in your throat. I feel like with you here in this case, it's almost like actually can we tone down the brightness just a little bit, but that just comes down to preference, whichever one you like more.
A szívem hová vezet.
All right. Yeah. And here your tongue again. Again, this is not a good thing or a bad thing. It's just something I wanted to point out. In general, you're working so much with your mouth, with your lips and your jaw and everything. And I love how, the words are really coming out crystal clear. I'm just wondering if we have to work quite that much. Or if we can be just a little lazier. Oh, I love that. I love that cry there. Hey, you're pushing your jaw forward here. Hey. Don't know if you need to do that. You've got some really nice cries here in this song. I like it. Oh, by the way, if you don't know what that cry is, it's that that's kind of compared to just Hear the difference there? So I love all these cries. It sounds awesome. Namale, namale, namale. Namale, namale. Namale, namale. If you hold on, I want to see one more time what you're doing here. Namale, namale, namale. Yeah, no, you're doing a really good job with those. I like it. Yeah, a little bit of that distortion there, and I love the smile at the end too. Oh my gosh, Miklan! Yes, I love this. You're just such a badass chick. You're way too cool for me, but I love it. I think you did a fantastic job with this. The two biggest things that I'm hearing for you is. First of all, is just how much effort you're putting into it as far as, volume goes and your mouth shape and all that. I think you can get by with just 5 to 10% less. It's not necessarily going to change the sound of your voice or just like the end result. It's just going to take 5 to 10% less effort to create exactly the same result, okay? So yeah, play around with that. And then the other thing is, like the tongue. Just being mindful of your tongue. Like, do we want that more or like, is the tongue more forward? Is it more back? Like, playing around with that to see how does it affect your sound and what do you want to do with it? How do you like it the most and how does it feel the best as well? But, wow, what a wild song. I love it. Thank you so much. One more time. Bravo, Miklan. Thank you for sharing. in case you didn't know, you can get your very own vocal evaluation as well. I'll include the link in the description too so that you can get your own vocal evaluation. Don't worry, you get to let us know if we can share your evaluation with everybody here on the show or not. We also do private evaluations, so don't worry about that if you don't want everybody else to see it too. We got you covered. You can still get your own evaluation. Alrighty, let's do one more. We've got Francesco from Italy, La Cura by Franco Battiato. Battiato, maybe. Franco Battiato. Francesco. Francesco is working on "My voice is unmusical, poor in harmony. I am out of tune in some notes. There is little emotion in the execution." Usually, just without listening to this first, just hearing that, usually that would mean that we need to work on skill number 2, which is dynamics, right? So we need to work on dynamic singing, which is volume and tone and embellishments. And that automatically, like if we are a little bit more playful with the dynamics and the tones and the embellishments that we are using, pretty automatically and quickly, we can sound a lot more musical, a lot more natural when we are singing. But let's have a listen and see what's actually happening.
Ti proteggerò dalle paure delle ipocondrie, dai turbamenti che da oggi incontrerai per la tua via, dalle ingiustizie e dagli inganni del tuo tempo, dai fallimenti che per tua natura normalmente attirerai, ti solleverò.
Okay, we're gonna stop right there before we keep going and look at it in more detail. I am gonna have to say I don't really agree. I don't think that you sound unmusical or unemotional at all. Are there other things that we can do to, make it more dynamic? Yes, of course, and we can look at some things here together. But I really do not feel like you sound unmusical at all. With Italian songs, from my limited experience with Italian songs, I lived in Switzerland and we vacationed a lot in Italy because it's right there. We even went to a Zucchero concert as well, which I loved him. He was so fun. But he's an Italian singer. I love Andrea Bocelli. He's also Italian and he's fantastic. I saw him last summer in Italy. It was so good. Anyways, off topic. In Italian songs, we hear like a lot of consonants and like really clear enunciation of the words is very, very, very typical in Italian songs. And I feel like you're doing such a great job at that. And you actually are already showing us a couple different tones in your voice, which is why I'm saying, like, I don't think you don't sound musical. Hold on. I don't think you don't sound musical. I think you do sound musical. Yeah, there you go. I'm just making sure I'm saying the right things. But let's go again from the beginning and see what's happening.
Ti proteggerò.
Okay. Ti proteggerò. Already down here, like, we're starting pretty low in your range. And I think you did a great job down here. I would almost say that you can, maybe not. I don't know. You'd have to play around with this, but 5% less. Ti proteggerò. Instead of ti proteggerò, right? Just ti proteggerò. Almost like a little husky. Ti proteggerò. Ti proteggerò. Ti proteggerò. Ti proteggerò. Just like doing less down there on that first phrase to start out the song with.
Dalle paure delle ipocondrie.
See, paure de ipocondrie. I'm sure I'm saying this all wrong, but like your enunciation is so crystal clear and so perfect. Like, I love that. It sounds so good.
Dai turbamenti che da oggi incontrerai per la tua via.
And via, via. Right, you're giving me that release there at the end. And so via is via. And those little details is why I'm saying I do feel like you sound musical, because it's in those little details that make it sound musical and natural. And so, you're already doing it. I do want to go back here to this other part real quick.
Dai turbamenti che da oggi incontrerai per la tua...
Contrerai! Up there. So you're going a little wide on contrerai, rai. It's quite wide. Contrerai, rai. If we can go a little bit longer rather than wide. Contrerai, rai. Yeah, a little longer rather than wide. See if that helps.
Per la tua via.
Via! I love that.
Dalle ingiustizie e dagli inganni del tuo tempo.
Yeah, same thing there. Tempo. You're going very wide. Tempo. A little more, a little lazier in your mouth shape, a little longer rather than wide. It just usually takes a little bit less effort to get the note out.
Dai fallimenti che per tua natura normalmente attirerai.
I love it. I love the breath releases. Give me all of those breath releases. They're magical. I love them.
Ti solleverò dai dolori e dai tuoi sbalzi di umore, dalle ossessioni delle tue manie.
Okay. So here, you've got those notes. You're working harder than you have to get to these notes. I can see it in your eyebrows. I can see the worry creeping in your eyebrows. Relax those beautiful eyebrows. So a couple things you can do, just bringing awareness, would be holding your forehead with your hand to, bring awareness to, the eyebrows, and like you're working harder than you have to get those notes. And the biggest thing would just be giving me 5 to 10% less volume up here on these notes. It sounds great. I just think you can get away with a little bit less effort, which seems to be a theme today.
Supererò le...
All right there. You were going to come in a little bit early and you built up all this pressure on right? Obviously that can happen sometimes where we're like, oh, hold on, I came in a little bit early, and then we're holding on to it. Ideally, we don't want to do that because it can build up quite a bit of pressure. What I usually say is only start breathing in right before your notes, because what we don't want to happen is breathing in and then holding your breath with full lungs and then starting to sing, because that builds up a lot of pressure, like I said here with this before you start singing as well. So we don't want to go sa-da-da-da-da, but more sa-da-da-da-da, right? I'm inhaling and immediately starting, and I'm not holding on to any sort of breath. Let's look at this one more time.
Supererò le correnti gravitazionali.
I gotta listen to this again because your R's here are, woo, juicy.
Supererò le correnti
Correnti. Like, yeah. It's so good. I love it.
gravitazionali. Lo spazio e la luce per non farti invecchiare.
Okay. Becchiare. We're going very wide. Becchiare. A little longer, a little lazier. Okay. Oh, okay. So, this is just interesting. I feel like I rarely talk about this in lessons, but in these vocal evaluations, I feel like I'm talking about it all the time, which is interesting. But keeping that energy all the way through the end of the note. If you're like, ooh, I'm going to run out before, I'm going to run out of breath before I can actually finish the note or whatever, just finish the note a little bit earlier. It's much better to cut the note short than to just kind of fade out there at the end. So keep that energy and keep that breath flow going for as long as you can, and then end the note, even if it means you have to end the note a little early. See right there? There you had a little bit of a crack there at the end because, your energy and your breath stopped flowing and then you were still holding on to the note. So again, it's better to cut the note a little short and support it all the way through to the end.
E guarirai da tutte le malattie.
tutte le malattie. We're going a little flat there. Tutte le malattie. Because you're going very wale malattie, right? And so you're kind of like trying to push that note up. It's also very possible because you're going so high, that usually translates into your neck, like as tension in your neck. So le malattie. You can hold like your face a little bit like this, like just the palms of your hands on your face, on your cheeks, so that you're not going le super wide, but more down. Le malattie. Oh, that feels a lot better. And just shake your head loose a little bit, so that, you know, those neck muscles are not engaging on you. And then you can get all the way up to that note rather than being slightly under.
Perché sei un essere speciale.
Yes, speciale. I liked how you're singing speciale, because like you're giving us a little bit of breath. And again, that's what I'm saying. Like you got plenty of dynamics already, which to me doesn't make it sound boring or unmusical or anything like this.
Ed io avrò cura di te.
Yeah.
Vagavo per i campi del Tennessee, come di ero arrivato.
Tennessee. Did you just say Tennessee? A little state here in the United States in your Italian song.
Arrivato, chissà, non hai fiori bianchi per me, più veloce di aquila i miei sogni attraversano il mare.
Okay, so ma was also slightly under, just a little bit, because we got a little bit heavy there. Ma, small mouth, ma, a little bit of a bigger mouth. So that's a theme for you. Instead of going wide, going a little bit more long instead, right? Think more long face rather than a wide mouth shape. So ma. Keep that note a little bit lighter and a little bit longer. Ma. And so when you're switching up into that falsetto or that head voice, we still have a contrast there, right? So because we're going from chest voice to head voice. Ma. And not, but it's not the mare, is that the ma of mare is not so heavy, so that we're not going slightly under, right? I want to hear that last note one more time.
Mare.
Okay. Mare. So when we're singing more in a head voice there and a more breathy voice, we run out of breath more quickly. So what you could do here, if that is an issue, mare, and just end there and not do the at the end. Or you can go mare, back into more of a chestier sound so that you're not using quite as much breath to get those notes out. But again, if we feel like we're running out of breath, we want to end the note before we get to that point so we can support it all the way through. But I do love how you're switching up into that head voice there. That gives, again, more dynamic range. See, Francesco, you're already doing it. You're already doing it. Give it up for Francesco. Yay! I thought that was great. Yes, there are things that we can do to make it sound more quote unquote musical. More natural, like add more layers to it, yes. But I don't think we need to overdo it, because sometimes if we start doing too much, then it almost takes away from the vocal performance. I kind of compare this, like, the cake analogy. If you've ever heard me talk about cake, the dynamics is the frosting on your cake. And there's absolutely such a thing as too much frosting on your cake. And we don't want that to happen, right? We don't want to have too much frosting on our cake. So it's the same with dynamics. We can absolutely overdo it. And then it's like, well, hold on, now it's taking away from our cake. Right now it's taking away from our performance because there's so much going on. I think this was really solid and really great. For you, the biggest thing is just elongate your mouth shape. Don't go too wide. And in some of the parts, work 5 to 10% less. and you got it, which seems to be a theme today, working 5 to 10% less. I think this is something that we can all work on, is working just a little bit less. And it's the same thing for me. When I'm singing, I tend to work harder than I have to get the notes out. And I think a lot of us are this way. So that's the theme for today, apparently. Working a little bit less and still get that same great sound, but it takes just a little bit less effort. That's what it comes down to, right? In singing, we want to optimize, right? We want to optimize for amazing sound with the least amount of effort. And a lot of times that is just decreasing the volume by 5 to 10%, and boom, you got it. Same sound, amazing sound, but just a little bit less effort. Alrighty? Well done, Francesco. Well done, everybody. Thank you for sharing your videos with us, for getting these evaluations. Again, if you want to get your own evaluation, even a private one, just click the link below. When you get your evaluation, you will let us know after where you were submitting your video, and any questions and comments and remarks that you have. That's where you'll be able to let us know whether we can use it here for our show or not. Okay, so please don't feel pressured to say yes if you want to keep this more private, and then only our vocal coaches here at VoxTape Studios will be able to see your video and not everybody else on the internet as well. Okay, anyways, thank you for listening and for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.